Joining me now is Wolfe, managing editor of The Blaze. Well, Leon, one of the more extraordinary moments in this press conference was when Donald Trump essentially equated George Washington and Thomas Jefferson to Robert E. Lee and other Civil War generals. I mean, that is something that I have actually heard and seen tweeted at me by people on the alt-right. Was he adopting an alt-right talking point, or is that a broader conservative view?
Oh, you know, I've heard a lot of people kind of say that, and I'm always frustrated when people don't view historical figures kind of within the historical context in which they occurred. I mean, if you go back 500-600 years, you'll not find anybody who had attitudes about race, no matter how good of a person that they might have been otherwise, that would be acceptable in today's place society.
Yeah, including Lincoln.
yeah, Abraham Lincoln, you're right. You know, he said some things about black people that would have made him totally unelectable anywhere in America today. You know, you have to judge people, I think, by their historical context. George Washington and Thomas Jefferson are simply different people. Now, look, I don't mean to excuse George Washington, you know, for having slaves, or for the fact that after the Revolutionary War, one of his primary aims was rounding up his slaves that the British had helped escape and sending them back to his plantation. I don't like that about George Washington, but it's different, I think, for George Washington and the importance of his historical figure, as opposed to people like Robert E. Lee and Nathan Bedford Forrest, who were generals in a war that they lost. It's not, you know, generally common to venerate the military leaders of failed rebellions, unless, you know, you have like some kind of ideological thing that says, well, basically what they were fighting for is right. Yeah. So I've always, you know, look, I live in the South. I lived in the South for 26 years. I'll never get over the Confederate statues, and I don't understand why they're still in the public square. I mean, if we want to move them to some place that recognizes, you know, the history of this, to graveyards or whatever, that's fine. I don't like to see them in the public square.
And do people, you know, that you talk to sort of in the conservative world, do they get that this, you know, that the origin of these statues really was in a pretty dark period in American history, the sort of Woodrow Wilson era, when lynching was abounding and when this sort of backlash against Reconstruction was reaching its apex? Do people know that?
Yeah, you know, that's part of it. I mean, definitely, a lot of these statues were erected a long time after the Civil War. That also kind of period happens to coincidentally happen about 50 years after the Civil War, and there were a lot of kind of 50-year, 100-year demonstrations of that. But no, look, I you know, would not look kindly upon the idea of erecting, you know, a Nathan Bedford Forrest statue, you know, one of the guys who was the co-founders of the KKK. I don't, yeah. And look, I understand that he kind of later repudiated a lot of those views in his life, and he was an interesting guy and everything, but for me, again, as a person who lives in the South and who's proud of the South, there's plenty of people who I would much rather see erected statues to, who have done great things, who are from the South, people like Faulkner and Martin Luther King. I mean, sure. Let's have some statues of those people instead of the people who led this war that we lost, you know? That's kind of the idea I have.
So I want to play just really quickly Steve Bannon at CPAC and ask you a question on the other side. Take a listen.
But I think the center core of what we believe, that we're a nation with an economy, not an economy just in some global marketplace with open borders, but we are a nation with a culture and a reason for being. And I think that's what unites us. And I think that is what's going to unite this movement going forward.
Leon, you know, after hearing Donald Trump today, would you say that he himself is a member of the alt-right, or he trucks with alt-right ideology?
You know, I don't know that Donald Trump actually believes much of anything. I would say that mostly, though, he understands that there are people that he needs or wants to have on his side politically, and is definitely willing to, you know, dog whistle, or whatever the term you want to call it is. Look, these people understand how they have to be dealt with in public. They understand the winks and the nods they have to get. They understand that people can't openly come out and say, I think these people are great. Yeah. But the things like the 48-hour delay, the things like the, oh, well, it's both sides, that's exactly what they understand. They hear from that, here is someone who's on my side.
Yeah. Wolfe, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.